Hey, what is up, mortals? It is JSatwekar here, and before we get into today's video, there's something I'd like to say. I'd like to let you all know that we have a merch store. Some of the items in it are only available for a limited amount of time, so if you're interested, go into the description and check it out. Each purchase helps us make more content. Secondly, if this video hits 500 likes by the end of the week, we will continue this What If. Thirdly, if you didn't know, only 41.3% of you guys are subscribed to us, so please hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon. Now with that out of the way, let's get into this story. A stunned silence filled the room after the spokesperson finished speaking. The announcement was so shocking that it took the reporters in the room a few minutes to process the implications fully. The room slowly started to descend into chaos as reporters began asking questions without waiting for the spokesperson to call on them. Each reporter tried to talk over their colleague. This led to the reporters shouting over each other to get the spokesperson to hear their questions. Back at UA, the people in Class 1A stared at the screen in shock and disbelief. The insomniac instructor was so stunned by the news, he simply turned off the board. The #1 hero in the world glowered at the board. The students of 1A looked at each other in shock and disbelief. The students stared at their teachers, who were wearing matching frowns as if they could change what they heard by their willpower alone. It took a few moments for the underground hero to collect his thoughts enough to speak. "This isn't going to make things better," the messy black-haired teacher said as he tried to put a sentence together. "This isn't... Why? Just why?" All Might shook his head in disgust. He tried to smile for a few minutes before giving up. The blonde-haired teacher turned around and addressed the class slightly more composed than the other teacher. "This is not the right method to try and create a healthier and safer society," the blonde-haired hero coldly said, with no hint of his usual pleasant and polite nature. "This doesn't work. Pros are meant to risk their lives. You can't just train a person to be a hero. A hero is someone who chooses to put their own life at risk to protect others." Silence slowly filled the room again as the class struggled to comprehend the implications of the announcement. The symbol of peace left the room with fists clenched. Aizawa watched the door slam shut behind the symbol of peace. It was as if the building itself was disagreeing with the decision made. The sleep-deprived teacher quickly composed himself and put the point totals back on the board. The man shook his head in disbelief before trying to calm the class down. "Before I was called out of the room because Midoriya woke up, I was going to explain how the points were calculated," the teacher said, at a loss for words. "After the madness we just watched, I want to do the logical thing and focus on what will affect you." As he shifted the focus away from the announcement, the teacher seemed to recover some of his energy. The man looked as if the weight of the world had been placed on his shoulders. His usual lack of emotion was replaced with an uncharacteristic amount of sympathy. "It's a shame that this sports festival was attacked. Sadly, the Safety Commission made the illogical decision and chose to dump the responsibility of protecting the innocent on children," Aizawa said with a measure of sympathy and irritation. "You guys should only have to worry about typical children's stuff. It was us adults who failed to make sure you were safe. Hopefully that order gets rescinded soon so you students can do normal school activities." "Shouldn't we discuss how the announcement affects us, sir?" Todoroki asked quietly. "Until Principal Nezu makes an announcement, we would be speculating about its effect," Aizawa said sadly. "Icy hot, shouldn't you be asking why he's talking about the points when 2 of our classmates aren't here?" Katsuki grumbled. "The announcement affects us going forward. Why would I focus on something that doesn't currently affect us?" Todoroki said defensively. "Would the 2 of you shut up?" the tired-looking teacher growled. "I'm explaining the points without Ida or Midoriya because the class needs some good news, especially since the Safety Commission just said that you guys need to take on more adult responsibilities. Principal Nezu still has to decide how he intends to handle the new policies. However, he is going to be explaining the point calculations to those 2. Does anyone else have any questions?" "Sir, why are there 2 point values next to our names?" the bubbly brown-haired girl asked nervously. "It's similar to the sports festival. The score on the left is how many villain points you earned, and the score on the right is how many hero points you earned," the black-haired man responded flatly. The villain points were based on how many Nomus you took down. The hero points were based on how many civilians and fellow students you helped and how you handled yourself overall. Aizawa made the rankings larger so that the students in the back could see. In first place was Izuku Midoriya with 150 villain points and 1,000 hero points. Tenya Ida was in second place with 60 villain points and 800 hero points. Third place was Katsuki Bakugo with 130 villain points and 700 hero points. Momo Yaoyorosa was in fourth place with 20 villain points and 700 hero points. After Momo's score, none of the scores went over 500 points total. The one surprise on the list was Todoroki in 12th place with 100 villain points and 100 hero points. Bakugo, how did you score so many hero points? The red-haired boy asked curiously. Can't believe I came in 10th place. Sir, how do these scores impact us? Dumbhair, Deku did better than me. Four Eyes too. If you want advice, you should ask them. The atomic blonde growled happily. I got stuck protecting a bunch of extras on the track. Roundface, you might want to learn how to fight. 6th place is impressive, given your quirk. You can discuss your scores tomorrow when I hand you the papers with your score breakdowns. Bakugo, you lost points because of your abrasive attitude. Each of you has a lot to work on. The pro hero stated flatly. Mineta, you shouldn't have to be told how your quirk can help the situation. Todoroki, don't try to save everyone by yourself. It won't work. Before class could continue as normal, Principal Nezu interrupted and walked into the class. The exhausted-looking principal announced that he was sending the Hero Course students home early. Before the principal left the room, he told Aizawa that there was a mandatory meeting that he had to head to. Class 1A was so stunned by the development that they left the room without any real protest. The explosive blonde tossed his bag over his shoulder and was on the school grounds when a familiar brown-haired girl ran up to him. Bakugo, wait up! The zero-gravity girl called out. What do you think of that announcement? I'm not sure. I thought it was just extras making noise. The blonde-haired boy grumbled as he stopped and waited for the girl to catch up. Given how the principal looked, I'm not so sure anymore. Man, I can't believe we didn't get to talk to Deku. Uraraka complained as she stared at Katsuki in genuine surprise. When do you think that Deku is going to return to class, now that he's awake? That damn nerd better return to class soon. I can't believe I lost to Four Eyes. Katsuki grumbled as he started walking again. I wonder why his quirk seems to be getting stronger all of a sudden. His quirk never released electricity before. I thought you'd be annoyed that Deku beat you, Uraraka said as she happily walked alongside Katsuki. He earned the win. I just wish I could have helped him, Katsuki said as he started to release his pent-up rage. I should have been fighting alongside him. What kind of friend am I? You're a great friend. I'm sure Deku wanted to fight alongside you as well, the brown-haired girl said, trying to calm her friend down. Next time, we just have to try harder. That isn't helping, Roundface. I appreciate the effort, but it's just making me want to blast something to hell, the atomic blonde shouted in self-loathing. If I had been stronger, I could have made it over to Deku. He wouldn't have to push himself beyond his limit. He wouldn't be in Recovery Girl's office. Then our goal is clear. Since we don't want our friends fighting alone, let's train. Then our goal is clear. Since we don't want our friends fighting alone, let's train, the zero-gravity girl said with a surprising amount of intensity. We can get strong enough to stand by their sides and make sure they never have to fight alone. Roundface, before we do that, we first need to teach you how to fight, the blonde boy said as he felt his anger being focused on something. You can't always rely on someone else to help you fight. Hopefully, we can start training soon. They headed home to consider the events that had just transpired at school. A group of reporters were being let into UA once all of the students had left. The usually messy-haired and poorly dressed teacher of 1A was dressed in a suit with his hair neatly combed. He guided the reporters until they arrived at a set of double doors. Thank you for coming on such short notice. Class 1A's teacher said politely as he opened the door. As the reporters entered, they noticed the room was gray and surprisingly empty. Aside from the chairs that filled the room was empty when they first entered. As they entered further, they noticed that on top of the stage was a table with 3 microphones placed in front of 3 chairs. Once the reporters were inside the room fully, Aizawa entered the room and closed the door. He then made his way up to the stage and took a seat on the leftmost chair. A few seconds later, the principal walked onto the stage and sat down in the middle seat. All Might followed the principal in his regular form. All Might sat down on the seat to Nezu's right. The principal then motioned for everyone to get quiet. Once he was sure everyone was quiet, he made sure his microphone was working. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. As I'm sure you are all aware, the Hero Public Safety Commission made an announcement today regarding what they want to happen going forward. The furry principal said flatly. The attack on the sports festival merely sped up my plans to have the students storm at UA. Security is one of my top concerns as the principal of UA. I have to make sure the students are safe. That was the easiest change to make. Nezu paused briefly to collect himself before he continued. He then moved his microphone down so he could sit more comfortably on the chair. After that, he made sure to choose his next few words wisely. I will be speaking to the Safety Commission regarding their second change. As of right now, I'm currently unsure how it would affect the UA students. The hardest change to address was the shifting of the educational track for general studies students. The principal calmly stated as he shifted in his seat uncomfortably. The Hero course and Support course will have to be getting 1 or 2 additional classmates. However, we lack the facilities to train everyone to either be a hero or a support person. For those general studies students who won't end up in the Support or Hero course, we are currently developing courses that would allow us to address the new educational requirements they need. Before we get back into the story, I would like to say that we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes over the hard facts of the anime presented. Now, in case you guys didn't know, we have a third channel called We the Celestials Naruto What If. We the Celestials Naruto What If mainly focuses on our Naruto What If series. If you are interested in content like this, please go check the description below, or click the eye icon in the top right corner. Now with that out of the way, let's get back into the story. To give ourselves better time to plan out the steps we need to take, we are canceling finals week. Next week, students will be finding out how they will be affected by the changes. Suppose any general studies student wishes to go to some other school to focus on their studies. In that case, we understand and wholly encourage it, Principal Nezu said as he tried to fake happiness. Those who wish to continue studying with us, we will have special lessons for you next week to see what interests you more. Next semester, we will offer an Intro to Support and Heroics course. The goal will be to simply add the needed courses in without disrupting your schedule or educational timeline too much. The principal let out a deep sigh and fell silent. Once it was clear that the principal was finished talking, the reporters started to talk amongst themselves. It took a few minutes as the reporters began to consider what the principal had just said.
Excuse me, sir. I was wondering who the person to your right is.
One of the reporters asked as he pointed at All Might.
I am Toshinori Yagi. Principal Nezu here hired me just recently for the general studies. I will be one of the teachers covering the Intro to Support and Heroics course.
The blond man in a yellow suit said calmly.
I will be around campus willing to help any student who wants to know how this will affect them. I may not be able to help every student, but I will try my best to assist every student I can.
What kind of safety measures does UA intend to put into place to prevent another attack like the one that occurred at USJ or the sports festival? A different reporter asked. Both attacks occurred due to a quirk. Especially after the sports festival, I've been hard at work trying to find a way to prevent it from happening, the principal said as worry seeped into his voice. The fact that our security was easily breached twice has left me extremely concerned. With tens of students being injured because of the attack on the sports festival, I've lost countless hours of sleep trying to prevent it from happening again.
Racerhead, 2 of your students were among the more seriously injured from the sports festival. From your perspective, how do you think this could have been prevented?
A third reporter in the room asked.
I'm aware of the fact that 2 of my students were seriously injured. To put it mildly, the fact that I don't have an answer has kept me up at night,
Aizawa said with frustration and self-loathing in his voice.
I can't tell you how many times I woke from a nightmare where I watched all my students die. This glaring flaw doesn't seem to have an easy solution. Sir, how do you think the attack reflects on UA and your ability to keep your students safe?
A reporter standing next to the previous one asked, causing the room to go quiet.
Sadly, it was my failure at USJ that led to the injuries that prevented me from helping out during the sports festival. These attacks have left me with grave concerns about whether or not I can protect my students,
Aizawa grumbled.
As for UA, I think the attacks helped bolster UA's reputation of training some of the best heroes. Each student was able to hold their own during the battle. What I saw from my students was inspiring. However, I saw plenty of places each one could improve in. I will be training them to address their weaknesses better. In UA's case, we now have to worry about addressing the Safety Commission's latest directives, which slows us down when it comes to ensuring the safety of the students.
Excuse me, Mr. Yagi, do you think that UA is doing enough to ensure the safety of their students?
A reporter asked from the back far left corner of the room. There's no such thing as doing enough. What I've learned from speaking with Nezu here and the pro heroes that teach at UA is that we can only do so much in this world,
All Might said sadly.
Every teacher wishes we could simply snap our fingers and make our problems disappear. Every plan we create will have a flaw in it. I believe that UA can address these flaws before they become too large.
The interview went on for another half an hour. Despite admitting that they couldn't prevent future attacks, public opinion started to shift in favor of UA. The tone of the interview wasn't cheerful. UA used it to recognize their failings. UA effort to show they were owning up to their mistakes and were working hard impressed the citizens of Japan. Most were expecting UA to simply say they were confident in their ability to protect their students. The response UA delivered felt uncomfortably human, especially for a school that trained the current symbol of peace. UA ended up losing about 30% of its student body. Every hero and support school noticed a similar drop. The public was against the Safety Commission's latest orders. Despite this, parents who moved their students out donated money to the schools. Parents had an issue that the orders were a polite way that the commission wanted to throw children at adult issues and responsibilities. One parent who was interviewed by reporters said it was the best. He was pulling his students out of UA because he felt his child wasn't getting the ability to choose their path in life. Even heroes in training shouldn't be responsible for the adults failing their responsibilities. This order felt too much like the Safety Commission was drafting people to fight criminals or help fight them. The parent made it clear he didn't support that, but intended to donate money to UA because the staff had shown him that they were intent on improving and making sure their students could learn safely and enjoy the rest of their childhood. 3 days later, the Atomic Blonde was walking into school when he saw a blue-haired boy run past him. The blonde-haired boy thought nothing of it as he entered the building. He was preoccupied with the fact that his mother's friend was still on the fence about whether or not to send him back to UA for the next semester. Another thought that bounced around his head was that he wanted to give his friend a new nickname. Deku just didn't fit anymore. He was so distracted by his own thoughts and concerns that he didn't notice the shouting that was going on in Class 1A. As he entered the room, he saw his classmates were crowding around Izuku's seat. Did Recovery Girl give you permission to attend class, or did you try and sneak out of her office again? A brown-haired girl said with a serious attitude. Uraraka, she said as long as I don't use my quirk, I'm allowed to attend class. Besides, I can't just sit back while you study, a green-haired boy said defensively. It suddenly dawned on him why everyone was crowding around his seat. As he got closer, he noticed the familiar mossy green color of his friend's hair. As he got to his seat, their sleep-deprived teacher entered the classroom.
Now that Midori is here, I'm going to show you guys some of the footage that we have from the sports festival. the teacher said with a yawn. We are going to critique each other's performance constructively. As a hero, you have to be willing to accept criticism and improve where you can. As the teacher was walking to the front of the classroom, the boy with red hair raised his hand. Once the messy-haired teacher reached the front of the class, he nodded at the boy. How does this help us improve as pro-heroes, sir? The red-headed boy asked. The criticism will hit closer to home if it's someone your age, Aizawa explained tiredly. You won't be able to blow it off so easily if you know who the person giving the criticism is. Since Midoriya scored the highest number of points, I'm going to put his fight up first. Aizawa pulled out a familiar-looking remote and pressed a few buttons. As a large image appeared on the board, a boy with blue hair raised his hand. Aizawa simply continued what he was doing, but motioned for the boy to speak. Excuse me, sir. Should we start with Midoriya's video? Wouldn't it be better if we start with someone else's video? The blue-haired boy with glasses asked curiously. Normally I would do that. However, Midoriya's the only one whose fight was fully recorded, the black-haired man said flatly. It also represents what a hero is supposed to do. Out of everyone in this classroom, Midoriya handled the situation like he was a pro. About 60% of the time, he was making the logical decision when he tried to help people. The video started when the portals began to open up over the sports festival. It then showed the green-haired boys sprinting into action as some of the Nomus started to attack people. The teacher stopped the video as it showed that the green-haired boy was the only student to react without hesitation. A hero shouldn't hesitate when lives are endangered. They need to act in a logical manner and save lives. Hesitating for even one moment could cost a victim their life, the teacher bluntly stated. Before anyone could respond, the teacher pressed play and the video resumed. The footage continued with Izuku saving the child and then coming to the rescue of the older man. Aizawa let out a sigh of annoyance as the boy continued to fight. You damn nerd! You should have called for help. Teamwork is an important part of being a hero, too. The atomic blonde growled at his friend as the video continued to play. The video reached the point where the boy pushed his body past his limit. The blonde boy watched as his friend was covered in a strange green glow. Something started to dawn on the boy as he continued to watch the video of his friend. His friend always seemed to make sure the Nomu couldn't get close enough to attack anyone else. If a Nomu got too close to a civilian, Izuku would kick it away before it could do anything else. Katsuki noticed the first sign that his friend was reaching his limit. The skin on his friend's arm started to turn red. Even though his friend was nearing his limit in the video, it seemed like the Nomu were still going down pretty quickly. By this point, there were no civilians in the area. The teacher then paused the video and stared at the class. Midoriya made his biggest mistake here. Can anyone tell me what he did wrong? Aizawa said, with a measure of disappointment in his voice. He was reaching his limits, sir. Despite this, he didn't fall back to a more defensible position or try and call for help. The half-red and half-white-haired boy said flatly. Correct. While prioritizing the needs of the victims is important, a hero should make sure they don't need to be saved as well. Aizawa explained calmly as his eyes narrowed at Izuku. In this case, the best option would have been to head to the field where he knew people were. The messy-haired teacher then unpaused the video. The class continued to watch the video in shock as Izuku's arms slowly started to turn black from overusing his quirk. The video ended with All Might coming in to save Izuku mere moments after Izuku was finally overwhelmed by the Nomu. Damn, Borealis, that was impressive. Next time, don't overuse your quirk like that, Katsuki said happily, surprising everyone. Thank you all for watching the video to the end. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. On behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank the writer of this video and editors for this video. Their details will be in the description. If you're a voice actor, editor, or writer, or you're interested in becoming one of those, go to the Discord that is in the description of this video and hit up the head of one of those areas. We're always looking for members to join us.
That's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're interested, and hit that like button if you liked the video. Until next time, peace out, mortals. Have a fantastic day.